Nestor always what?
Always talk about
Not on. Okay, yes, but before that, Antilochus is mentioned before that. What do we learn about Pisistratus and Antilochus? So Menelaus mused, and stirred in them all a deep desire to grieve. Helen of Argos, daughter of Zeus, dissolved in tears. Telemachus wept too, and so did Atreus' son Menelaus. We know why they all are upset here. Nor could Nestor's son Pisistratus stay dry-eyed, remembering now his gallant brother Antilochus, cut down by Memnon, splendid son of the morning. So why is he upset about Antilochus?
oh, that he's dead.
And who is he? He's dead. Who is he? One of Pisistratus' brothers, yes. I believe we learned a little bit more about him later in the in book 4, that the two of them never actually met. And yet Pisistratus still feels the pain of this loss here. His family has been directly affected also. Obviously his father fought in the war, but survived. But he lost a brother. All right, other questions you want to go over from book 4 questions? If you're watching, you can write in if there's one you want to go over there. All right, what happens at the end of book 4? So we see this feast at Menelaus' palace, and then the scene shifts to what?
Ithaca.
To Ithaca. And what's going on back in Ithaca?
They discovered that Telemachus is gone.
Say that again?
They discovered that Telemachus is gone.
The suitors discover that Telemachus is gone. Noemon, whose ship Telemachus borrowed, lets it slip. And how do the suitors react to this information?
They're surprised.
They're surprised. Are they happy about it?
Oh, no.
No. So what do they do? What do they do about this bad news?
They try to get him to come back.
Well, they figure he's going to come back eventually. They're not going to actually try to convince him to return. What are they going to do instead? Here at the end of book 4. Very end. What plan do they make?
Oh, they decide to kill him.
Right, they're going to try to kill Telemachus. And how are they going to do this? Where are they going to kill him? At sea. Right, we read here in the very last stanza of book 4 on page 151. But the suitors boarded now and sailed the sea lanes. Plotting in their hearts, Telemachus plunged to death. Off in the middle channel lies a rocky island, just between Ithaca and Sami's rugged cliffs. Asteris. Not large, but it has a cove, a harbor with 2 mouths where ships can hide. Here, the Achaeans lurked in ambush for the prince. So to sail from Ithaca back to Ithaca, Telemachus will have to pass through this narrow channel. There's a rocky island there where they can hide their ships. Ambush him and kill him. So the suitors make that plan. This is actually, they think this is going to be to their advantage because now they can get rid of him without anybody knowing about it. Apparently it isn't really common knowledge that he's gone, and people will sometimes go off on voyages and never return, like Odysseus. So if he could just disappear away from Ithaca, people might never find out. A very convenient solution to the problem. While the suitors are making these plans, we also see Penelope. And how does Penelope figure into all of this? I'm sorry? Yes, she's visited by a goddess. Yes, it is Athena. Visits her in the form of her sister. Why is Penelope upset, though? Athena sends her this vision because she's upset. Why is Penelope upset?
Because she never comes.
Because what?
She never comes to eat. Yeah. There's nobody to tell her.
Telemachus didn't tell her. Remember, he told Euryclea, his old nurse, he had her make some preparations for him. But he also told Euryclea, don't tell my as a faithful servant. But here, even Euryclea, who is one of the few people living with Telemachus and Penelope whom they can trust, even there's a sort of divided loyalty between Penelope and Telemachus. Penelope has been in charge this whole time, but now Telemachus tells her, don't tell my mother this, and she listens to him. All right. So now Penelope finally knows that her son is gone abroad to search for news of his father. Suitors are planning death for Telemachus. And here Homer is going to leave us hanging on that. He's going to shift again away from Telemachus back to Odysseus. We haven't seen much of Odysseus yet. We know where he is. We know he's on Ogygia Island with the goddess Calypso. We've heard some stories about him from the war and from the earlier days, but we haven't actually really seen him yet. We've just seen Telemachus. Now we're going to shift to Odysseus, and we're not actually going to get back to Telemachus and his return home for quite some time. Now Telemachus and his father are sort of in similar situations. They both have made these voyages where it's going to be difficult for them to get home. Odysseus will learn more about the struggles that he had. And Telemachus has this issue of the suitors lying in wait for him. We'll have to wait a while to see how that's resolved. All right, so book 5 on page 152. 152, please. Odysseus, nymph, and shipwreck. What do we say, nymph? What's a nymph?
Like a goddess of woman.
Yeah, so nymph is a type of Greek goddess that looks like a beautiful woman. Yes. As dawn rose up from bed by her lordly mate Tithonus, bringing light to immortal gods and mortal men, the gods sat down in council, circling Zeus, the Thunder King, whose power rules the world. Athena began, recalling Odysseus to their thoughts. The goddess, deeply moved by the man's long ordeal, held captive still in the nymph Calypso's house. Father Zeus, you other happy gods who never die, never let any sceptered king be kind and gentle now, not with all his heart, or set his mind on justice. No, let him be cruel and always practice outrage. Think, not one of the people whom he ruled remembers Odysseus now, that godlike man, and kindly as a father to his children. Now he's left to pine on an island, racked with grief in the nymph Calypso's house. She holds him there by force. He has no way to voyage home to his own native land, no trim ships in reach, no crew to ply the oars and send him scudding over the sea's broad back. And now his dear son, they plot to kill the boy on his way back home. Yes, he has sailed off for news of his father, to holy Pylos first, then out to the sunny hills of Lacedaemon. Let me print out for you guys right now, while I'm thinking of it, the book 5 questions. And if somebody would run and grab them off the printer, that would be great.
Where's that at?
So in the front office there, you go in on the left against the wall, there's a printer. So they should come off there in just a minute. Book 5. Where is it? Come on. There it is. Come on. Nope. Sorry, it's still, yeah, it's still working. There we go. Okay, let's continue. 153, line 24. My child, Zeus, who marshals the thunderheads, replied, what nonsense you let slip through your teeth. Come now, wasn't the plan your own? You conceived it yourself. Odysseus shall return and pay the traitors back. Telemachus, sell him home with all your skill. The power is yours, no doubt. Home to his native country, all unharmed, while the suitors limp to port, defeated, baffled men. With these words, Zeus Odysseus journeys home. The exile must return. But not in the convoy of the gods or mortal men. No, on a lashed makeshift raft and wrung with pains. On the 20th day he will make his landfall, fertile Scheria, the land of Phaeacians, close kin to the gods themselves, who with all their hearts will prize him like a god and send him off in a ship to his own beloved land, giving him bronze and hoards of golden robes. More plunder than he could ever have won from Troy if Odysseus had returned intact with his fair share. So his destiny ordains. He shall see his loved ones, reach his high-roofed house, his native land at last. 153. Very bottom of 153. So Zeus decreed, and the giant-killing guide obeyed at once. Quickly, under his feet he fastened the supple sandals, ever-glowing gold that wing him over the waves and boundless earth with the rush of gusting winds. He seized the wand that enchants the eyes of men whenever Hermes wants or wakes us up from sleep. That wand in his grip, the powerful giant killer, swooping down from Pieria, down the high, clear air, plunged to the sea and skimmed the waves like a tern, that down the deadly gulfs of the barren salt swells, glides, and dives for fish, dipping its beating wings in bursts of spray. So Hermes skimmed the crests on endless crests. But once he gained that island worlds apart, up from the deep blue sea he climbed to dry land and strode on till he reached the spacious cave where the nymph with lovely braids had made her home, and he found her there inside. Okay, so quickly, setting the scene here, then shoot 5 questions. We open up again with the gods on Mount Olympus, deciding what they're going to do about Telemachus and Odysseus. Zeus tells Athena, well, you take care of Telemachus, you can deal with that. And what's going to happen with Odysseus? What does Zeus do about Odysseus? He doesn't release Odysseus directly.
He sends Hermes.
He sends Hermes.
To release Odysseus?
Yes. So who is Hermes? He's the messenger of the gods. His Latin name is Mercury. And he's often described as the giant killer. So when you see the giant killer reference, that's Hermes. And Hermes is going to go to Calypso, How do we see Calypso described? She's not always referred to by her name, but as what? The what? The nymph with what? How does Homer refer to Calypso? The nymph with what? With lovely braids, yes. All right. And Hermes is going to carry this message to Calypso that she should let Odysseus go. Let him go. Notice that we get some other information here from the gods. We see that he's by himself, the top of 153. Athena mentions he has no way to voyage home to his own native land, no trim ships in reach, no crew to ply the oars. He doesn't have any ships or crew. It's all by himself. All right, so continuing from the middle of 154. Hermes arrives on Ogygia to Calypso's cave. A great fire blazed on the hearth, and the smell of cedar cleanly split and sweetwood burning bright wafted a cloud of fragrance down the island. Deep inside she sang, the goddess Calypso, lifting her breathtaking voice as she glided back and forth before her loom, her golden shuttle weaving. Thick, luxuriant woods grew round the cave, alders and black poplars, pungent cypress too, and there the birds roosted, folding their long wings, owls and hawks and the spread-beaked ravens of the sea, black skimmers who make their living off the waves. And round the mouth of the cavern trailed a vine laden with clusters, bursting with ripe grapes. 4 springs in a row, bubbling clear and cold, running side by side, took channels left and right. Soft meadows spreading round were starred with violets, lush with beds of parsley. Why, even a deathless god who came upon that place would gaze in wonder, heart entranced with pleasure. Hermes the guide, the mighty giant killer, stood there spellbound. But once he'd had his fill of marveling at it all, he briskly entered the deep vaulting cavern. Calypso, lustrous goddess, knew him at once, as soon as she saw his features face to face. Immortals are never strangers to each other, no matter how distant one may make her home. But as for great Odysseus, Hermes could not find him within the cave. Off he sat on a headland, weeping there as always, wrenching his heart with sobs and groans and anguish, gazing out over the barren sea through blinding tears. But Calypso, lustrous goddess, questioned Hermes, seating him on a glistening, polished chair. God of the golden wand, why have you come?
Wait, why does Calypso have him?
Ah, yes. Why is Odysseus on Calypso's island? We're not actually going to get the information of how he got there for quite some time. Somehow he ends up at our island. We'll learn that later. And he's stuck there because she's keeping him there, craving him for a husband, Homer says. We'll see some more information about that in just a moment. God of the golden wand, why have you come? A beloved, honored friend, but it's been... The goddess drew up a table beside him, heaped with ambrosia, mixed him deep red nectar. Same way ambrosia is the food of the gods, nectar is what they drink instead of wine. Hermes, the guide and giant killer, ate and drank. Once he had dined and fortified himself with food, he launched right in, replying to her questions. As one god to another, you ask me why I've come. I'll tell you the whole story, mince no words. Your wish is my command. It was Zeus who made me come, no choice of mine. Who would willingly roam across a salty waste so vast, so endless? Think, no city of men in sight, and not a soul to offer the gods a sacrifice and burn the fattest victims. But there is no way, you know, for another god to thwart the will of storming Zeus and make it come to nothing. Zeus claims you keep beside you a most unlucky man, most harried of all who fought for Priam's Troy 9 years, sacking the city in the 10th, and then set sail for home. But voyaging back, they outraged Queen Athena, who loosed the gales and pounding seas against them. There, all the rest of his loyal shipmates died, but the wind drove him on. The current bore him here. Now Zeus commands you to send him off with all good speed. It is not his fate to die here, far from his own people. Destiny still ordains that he shall see his his loved ones, reach his high-roofed house, his native land at last. Hermes arrives on Ogygia. He delivers the message to Calypso. It's time for Odysseus to go home. Before we continue, I want to see Calypso's response to this. What is Ogygia Island like? Homer describes it for us when Hermes arrives. What does it look like? What are some things that we see on Ogygia Island? He describes it on pages 154 and 155. Actually, yeah. Especially the second half of 154. What are some things that we see on Ogygia?
The smell of cedar.
Smells of cedar. You guys know what cedar smells like? Cedar is a particular type of wood. It comes from the cedar tree. It's sort of reddish. And it has this very nice scent to it. So often, if you're grilling something, you might grill something on a plank of cedar because the smell makes the food taste even better. It's also useful because it doesn't really rot the way that many other woods do. But it has this nice smell to it, either if you burn it or even if it's just fresh cut. It has this very nice smell to it. So it's nice smelling. It's got this good resource of cedar. What else do we see here?
They are beard.
Say that again.
They are beard. Beard. Right.
There are lots of birds. Yes. What else?
Cloud.
A cloud of fragrance, of some sort of perfume. Yes, it smells beautiful. There are birds. There are woods, beautiful woods, thick, luxuriant woods. There are meadows, soft meadows, where there's good grass for sheep and things to eat. There's grapes. There are grapes for making wine. It's very fertile. This is a beautiful island, rich, good to live in. And what is Calypso doing when we first see her? In the middle of 154. See Calypso for the first time. What's she doing? Notice these details.
She's singing.
She's singing, and what is she doing while she sings?
Looming.
She's weaving on her loom. She's weaving fabric on her loom. Who else? Who else has worked with a loom so far in the Odyssey? It's the other person we've seen associated with looms, weaving. Penelope. Remember, this is how she tricks the suitors, by weaving this piece of fabric and then unweaving it every night. You notice these little details here. This is a wonderful place.
But how does that distract somebody?
Well, because she says, once I'm done with this, then I'll marry one of you. And she works on it all day, and then at night, when they're sleeping, she picks it apart. That's how she tricked them for a while. But here we see Calypso weaving also. All right, and then Hermes delivers the message after Calypso gives him some good food to eat. She's being nice and hospitable. So 156 now, line 129. Hermes has just told Calypso, you need to send Odysseus back. But lustrous Calypso shuddered at those words and burst into a flight of indignation. Hard-hearted you are, you gods, you unrivaled lords of jealousy, scandalized when goddesses sleep with mortals openly, even when one has made the man her husband. So, when Dawn with her rose-red fingers took Orion, you gods in your everlasting ease were horrified, till chaste Artemis throned in gold attacked him out on Delos, shot him to death with gentle shafts. And so, when Demeter, the graceful one with lovely braids, gave way to her passion and made love with Iasion, bedding down in a furrow plowed 3 times. Zeus got wind of it soon enough, I'd say, and blasted the man to death with flashing bolts. So now at last, you gods, you train your spite on me for keeping a mortal man beside me. The man I saved, riding astride his keelboard all alone, when Zeus with one hurl of a white-hot bolt had crushed his racing warship down the wine-dark sea. There, all the rest of his loyal shipmates died, but the wind drove him on. The current bore him here. And I welcomed him warmly, cherished him, even vowed to make the man immortal, ageless all his days. But since there's no way for another god to thwart the will of storming Zeus and make it come to nothing, let the man go, if the Almighty insists, commands, and destroy himself on the barren salt sea. I'll send him off, but not with any escort. I have no ships in reach, no crew to ply the oars and send him scudding over the sea's broad back. But I will gladly advise him. I'll hide nothing, so he can reach his native country all unharmed. And the guide and giant killer reinforced her words. Release him at once, just so. Steer clear of the rage of Zeus, or down the years he'll fume and make your life a hell. What is Calypso's response to Hermes coming and telling her to let Odysseus go?
That she will.
She will let him go. How does she feel about this? She's angry.
Yeah, she won't send no crew.
She says, I can't give him anything. I can give him advice, but I don't have any ship or crew to send him with. She's not going to help this happen any more than she has to. Notice she gives in only because she knows that she can't compete with Zeus. Zeus, the king of the gods, told her if she doesn't listen to him, he's going to make things very difficult for her. And he is more powerful than her. So she gives in. And specifically, what does she...
So at this point, does anybody know Odysseus is not dead?
So Telemachus knows Odysseus is still alive because he heard it from Menelaus, who heard it from the old man at the sea. But Odysseus doesn't know that anyone knows anything about it. And notice also that on page 156, Calypso is especially irritated because the gods don't like it when goddesses sleep with mortal men. She gives two examples of Orion, who slept with Dawn, and Iasion, who slept with Demeter, that both of them were killed by the gods. She thinks this is unfair. Why? Why is it not fair for the gods, for Zeus to let her have this mortal man to sleep with?
Slept always
Right. With Zeus especially, the male gods are always messing around with mortal women. Zeus especially, most of all. They're allowed to do that, but Calypso here, she just wants this one guy. What's the big deal?
Odysseus is not immortal.
No, Odysseus is immortal. She says, I offered to make him immortal. I said, look, you can stay with me forever and enjoy whatever, forever. It's this beautiful island that has delicious food. It's, it's just you and me, Odysseus. Tempting in a way. But where is Odysseus? We're about to see him finally for the first time. Where is he? Is he in Calypso's house right now? No. Hermes didn't find him there. Let's see Odysseus. So, page 157, line 164. With that, the powerful giant killer sped away. The queenly nymph sought out the great Odysseus, the commands of Zeus still ringing in her ears, and found him there on the headland, sitting still, weeping, his eyes never dry, his sweet life flowing away with the tears he wept for his foiled journey home, since the nymph no longer pleased. In the nights, true, he'd sleep with her in the arching cave, he had no choice, unwilling lover alongside lover all too willing. But all his days he'd sit on the rocks and benches and beaches, wrenching his heart with sobs and groans and anguish, gazing out over the barren sea through blinding tears. We first meet Odysseus in the Odyssey, book named after him. What is he doing?
Crying.
He's crying. Why?
He doesn't want to be there.
He doesn't want to what?
Be with her.
Right, he doesn't want to be there. Where is he? Where is he sitting? On the beach, looking at the sea, towards his home. Yes, he still enjoys the company of Calypso at night. Not really because he wants to. He doesn't have much of a choice. Notice, Homer says, since the nymph no longer pleased. He doesn't, maybe at first this was fun, but it's grown old. It's not his home that he's longing for. So coming up to him now, line 176, the lustrous gods ventured, no need, my unlucky one, to grieve here any longer. No, don't waste your life away. Now I am willing, heart and soul, to send you off at last. Come, take bronze tools, cut your lengthy timbers, make them into a broad-beamed raft, and top it off with a half-deck high enough to sweep you free and clear on the misty seas. And I myself will stock her with food and water, ruddy wine to your taste, all to stave off hunger, give you clothing, send you a stiff following wind so you can reach your native country all unharmed, if only the gods are willing. They rule the vaulting skies. They're stronger than I to plan and drive things home. We will pause there for today. Finally met our hero crying on the beach. See you guys tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow, first thing actually before we do any more reading, Sonnet 94. Please be ready to recite. Other than that, creative writing due Friday night.